Hey everybody, David here, and today I want to talk about a little remark that uh, President Trump talked about yesterday in his speech after the two shootings that happened during the weekend, and a lot of tragedy happened. Obviously, if you haven't heard, in two places in the U.S. and there was actually a shooting here in Toronto as well in a North York nightclub. Um, so yeah, the world is really messed up right now, and something that a lot of people took notice in the president's speech yesterday regarding the two shootings was how he blamed video games as one of those the problems with the world today. What's causing the violence, and a lot of people know firsthand it's the way the president talks, how he talks a lot of hate and aggravates people because of it, how he likes to blame certain minorities or certain races or religion or, all of that. He points blame and calls people certain things that you should never say. Now, a lot of people, well, what about free speech? You can have free speech, but know what is right to say, even if, even on a level of like honor. You should know that there's you don't want to hear certain things said to you. You shouldn't say it to other people. If someone said something racist to you or something prejudiced to you, you wouldn't want it. You wouldn't like it either. If you want people to treat you nicely, you should treat other people with the same respect. And that's all people want is the same level of respect as everybody else in the world. And that's a fair thing to give back. Um, I don't like getting political on my channel. I like, keeping it about movies. This is technically about movies because movies and games they kind of bleed into the same area of entertainment. Same thing with music in some ways as well. So video games were the subject of what the president used as a way to blame the violence on. These kids today is because of mental illness and and video games that they play. And look, I'm not the biggest video gamer. I do know some of my family and friends that do play video games, or they used to play video games a lot. Some of them, like I used to play a lot of video games. The most violent game I probably ever played was GoldenEye from Nintendo 64. Other than that, the latest games I play is like Kingdom Hearts and Disney Infinity. Kingdom Hearts maybe being really the last game Kingdom Hearts 3 being the last game I played in recent years. I'm just not into video games as much anymore, but this is a subject that really bothers me because I do know people that have blamed video games and violence on movies and television to counteract what's going on in the world instead of looking at the true people who should be blamed, the individual parents who raised their kids to eventually go down that path. Now, maybe some of it is a little bit of mental illness. I'm not going to say for certain, because we all deal with troubles in our own rights. I feel like we all deal with situations differently. I have a brother who's dealing with a mental illness, but it's thankfully not to the extent of what these other kids maybe have gone through. I don't want to say mental illness is always an issue because sometimes there's other issues involved. But yes, mental illness could be. But why are video games being blamed? I played video games with fighting before, and that hasn't gotten me to pick up a gun and go shoot people. Number one, the biggest problem, I think most people can agree, is the fact that the U.S. has these gun laws that anybody can practically get a gun and go out doing whatever they want. I live in Canada. We do not have those type of problems. Yes, there are still shootings once in a while, but if you look at the stats, thank God, we do not have those issues down here in Canada. They're not as bad or not as common as they are in the U.S. Why is that? Because we have laws. No, I don't have a gun in my house, and thank God, I don't need it. I feel safe without it, and some people probably don't, and that's fine. But lock your doors, put on the alarm, make sure you have your phone near you at all times. Then you can call the police if someone tries breaking into your house. But I do feel that blaming video games is like an old school thing. My grandparents would be the kind of people that would complain about the grandkids playing video games all the time. So it's a sickness. That's what my grandfather used to say. He used to call it a sickness. But there was a time where people blamed movies and television too. Let's remember, the Batman franchise, the reason we got Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, if any of you are old enough to remember this, was because parents complained about the bloodiness and the violence in Batman Returns. If it wasn't for people complaining about Batman Returns, the Batman franchise would have probably continued pretty well into the future. But because of those complaints, we got those two Joel Schumacher films with bat nipples. Thankfully, the studios learned from that mistake and went back to a darker, grittier Batman, which people really respect and adore, the Christopher Nolan Dark Knight trilogy. But then there was also other things, like the Power Rangers. Everybody forgets that the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, when that started, there were people that complained about the violence in that show too. And I think it was Amy Jo Johnson who played the original Pink Ranger, Kimberly. There was an interview with her. I can't remember exactly what it said. I should have gotten it up to pick it up. People complained. I'm paraphrasing here a little bit, so go with me. People complain about, cowboy films when they were there, but violence has always been around even before those movies were around, and the same thing was for the Rangers themselves. Eventually, the complaints from parents got so bad when Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Season 2 started because of the introduction of Lord Zedd. Parents complained that their kids were getting scared of Lord Zedd. I don't know who these nerdy kids are. I was a kid who loved Lord Zedd and think he was one of the best villains of all time. But then they kind of neutered him midway through. They brought back Rita Repulsa and had him get married to Lord Zedd, which a lot of hardcore Power Ranger fans noticed that Zedd turned more into a joke afterwards. He was more funnier later on, and there was more, one-liners coming from him because he was married to Rita. It was like a wife and husband banter going on between the two characters, and some people felt Lord Zedd was whipped. So in some ways he kind of was, but it wasn't from Rita, it was from the writers, because the mothers complained, the soccer moms is what people used to call them, complained into the studio and said, change that character. And so people who don't understand the show are messing with the art. It's funny how people look back fondly to the early seasons of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. I just want to note that, and lots of people who never watched the show past season 1 and 2 have said that anything after Mighty Morphin Power Rangers is not good. Someone who stuck around long enough, like me, would disagree with that. I think there are plenty of seasons that are superior to Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and did go back to some of those darker seasons. The point is, sometimes blaming something isn't the right approach. Maybe you should look at the person who's in charge of that kid. If your kid is fighting in school, it's not because a simple kids' TV show told him to do it. It's because you didn't teach your kids that they shouldn't be doing that. I just want to point that out, because as someone who watched Mighty Morphin Power Rangers and grew up watching every other season that followed, I'll tell you, I've never been in a fight in my life. So it looks like that theory does not work very well. And the same thing is with video games. My brothers are two people that play video games. I don't know if it's as violent as the ones some might think. I know they play Star Wars Battlefront, and and Fortnite is a game they play as well. And I played a little bit of Fortnite myself just because I like playing with my brothers online and teaming up and getting other people. But you don't see my brothers going out there doing stupid things. They know that this is just entertainment, this is just fun things to get your mind off the day, and that's about it. It doesn't give them any stupid ideas. And I think what Trump and the rest of the U.S. need to decide, the government over there, is it's not pointing the blame on other things, it's pointing the blame on yourself and taking up that responsibility to do what's right. So that's all I have to say. I don't like getting political, and hopefully nobody gets mad at this video and makes a worthy discussion out of it. Like, do you blame video games? Are you someone that still plays video games? What do you think of all of this? What do you have to say? What's your point of view? What do you think the cause of the problem is? If it's not the parents, if it's not video games, or if it's not the U.S. government, who is the problem? Where is the problem coming from? Are we just not paying attention to other people who might need our help deep down inside? Or, like, I never got a lot of help from people. I was always a kid that was made fun of in grade school and high school. But eventually, and that was because I was a shy kid. And but I never went out and caused chaos, and I hope nobody else does. And if that is the case, if they are people like that maybe can't handle the pressures of being in school with people that bully them or something, like 13 Reasons Why is a great example of a show that gives us ideas of how our actions can fuel people. And that was one of the things that kind of bothered me in at the finale of season 2, was that scene in the bathroom. I did a whole video on it. It was one of my higher viewed videos, so go check that out. And you can see all the comments of people that were affected by that scene. Maybe because something like that happened to them, or something similar, or to that extent. We all have feelings, and I think we all do need to talk about it, but I don't know if that's the only thing that's, the problem. Sometimes it's like The Dark Knight says, the line that Michael Caine says in The Dark Knight, sometimes some people just want to see the world burn. And sometimes that could be true. So comment below, guys. I hope you guys like this video. Please subscribe to my channel. Usually I talk about movies, not political things. But once in a while, I think it is important to talk about other issues out there in the world. So with that being said, until next time, take care.